Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming. It's September 21st, 2022, and today I want to talk a little bit about yin and yang, Western culture, and specifically women in Western culture, and tribe, the concept of tribe. So, to start off with, for those who aren't familiar, the concept of yin and yang is this. It's a concept of polarities, the idea that the universe works in polarities and that everything has kind of an essence that is towards one pole or towards the other. And so within that context and that framework, the yang tends to be conceptualized as masculine, as active. It's represented by the sun. It's hot, and it's like I said, it's very active. It's go, do, conquer, achieve, and it's light. Yin, on the other hand, is the passive and receptive. It's the feminine. It's all about being and stillness and reflection. It's cool. It's dark. It's represented by the moon. So, in that system, Yang uses energy. It takes energy that it has and it uses it to go and do and achieve and conquer, as opposed to Yin, which restores energy. So it's all about kind of like stillness, like I said, stillness and receptivity, and about taking energy in and kind of restoration and filling the cup. It's very receptive. So I want to talk a little bit about Western culture and women in Western culture. Western culture is extremely yang dominant. It's got a strong emphasis on the masculine ideals of going and doing, achieving, conquering. And this is a big contributor to what has come to be called hustle culture or busy culture. It's become such a badge of honor to say that you're so busy and that you have so much going on. And there's very little room left in Western culture. There's very little emphasis and value in this more yin, feminine element of rest and restoration and reflection and kind of this like the deepness. Um, and since that is where we take energy back in, I think it's causing a lot of imbalance. Like you can't just use energy and use energy and use energy and not take energy back in and think that you're going to be able to keep going. And so there's a lot of impact on physical health. I think there's a lot of impact on mental health as a result of kind of the state of things in Western culture and this really unbalanced value between the yin and the yang, or unbalanced cultural values that are well represented by the yin and the yang. And I think this is especially true I think that ironically, in that the yin is classified as feminine, I think it's especially true for women, and particularly women who are mothers and wives. There is a lot of pressure, not that there's not a lot of pressure on men, there definitely is, but there's really an exceptional amount of pressure on women to be a good employee, to be a great mother, to be a good wife, to also be thin and very pretty and fit, and to have this clean house that's lovely, and to also be kind of contributing to bringing in income. I think, and also to have your children in all the activities and be providing them with all of the opportunities and doing all of this stuff perfectly and seamlessly and tirelessly. And so I think a lot of women, and also we still have some, it's not as bad as it used to be, but we still have some elements in our culture of socializing women specifically not to be takers, to not be like, how many women do you know who can't take a compliment, who are not able to receive in that way, or who say, well, no, I don't, like, that's okay, I don't need any, or you take the big half. There's this kind of resistance towards receiving or consuming. A lot of women won't eat in front of other people. It's not uncommon to not want to be seen as taking things in, and there's such a tendency to like, no, I'm okay, I don't need anything, especially with women. So as a result, women are really, really depleted. It's all output and no intake. There's no yin, no rest, no stillness, no being, no reception and receiving. And I think women are really desperate for the rest and the stillness, but because of the pressure and the expectations placed externally or actually placed on us by ourselves in a lot of cases, um, we can't relax. Like a lot, I in my practice, I get a lot of women who literally cannot relax, like physically. Definitely high anxiety that comes along with that. You can't be tense in the body without being tense in the mind, and you can't be tense in the mind without being tense in the body. But physically as well, like physically incapable of relaxing. There's another piece that kind of ties in with that, which has to do with actually the food supply in the United States. Our produce and our grains are grown largely by large scale agriculture, and large scale agricultural practices still to this day are very depleting to the soil. And so the same vegetable that had, X amount of magnesium, I'm going to use magnesium because that's what I'm going to talk about, 10, 20 years ago, the nutritional content of that same vegetable is markedly lower now because they're being grown in soil that's very depleted, that isn't being restored through restorative farming practices like no-till farming or composting, that sort of thing, cover crops. And instead, the plants are just kind of being force grown by way of use of chemical fertilizers. So in taking in those plants, not only are you taking in some toxins in the form of the fertilizers, which add to the body's overall stress load, but you're not getting adequate minerals. It's very difficult to get adequate minerals, vitamins and minerals from the American diet right now because so much of our produce and grains are seriously depleted of minerals and vitamins that were historically in the soil and ended up in the plants. So magnesium specifically, which is a common one to be deficient in, if you're magnesium deficient, your muscles literally can't relax. It becomes very difficult to relax a muscle. Magnesium is the mineral that allows muscles to release and relax. So I think that contributes, but I think that the culture is a bigger driver of this inability to relax. Kind of a side note. So that said, I want to talk now about some hormones and the concept of tribe. It has not been very long, evolutionarily speaking, since we lived tribally. And when we lived tribally, women spent their days doing woman stuff with women, and men spent their days doing man stuff with men. And at the end of the day, they saw each other. And in no way am I advocating for anything evocative of The Handmaid's Tale. I don't think that we should go back to that per se. But there are some ways that we are hormonally, endocrinologically hardwired still as a result of that evolutionary history that I think is causing some problems. So women spending their time with women doing women stuff causes women to release higher amounts of oxytocin. And oxytocin is actually anxiety reducing to women specifically. So spending their days doing that it reduced anxiety for women. Men spending their days doing manly things with men causes them to release testosterone, which is anxiety reducing for men. Interestingly, oxytocin is anxiety producing for men, and testosterone is anxiety producing for women. So where our culture has changed, and now women are out in the workplace, and the American workplace is very yang dominant, very competitive, and definitely not oriented around you should take some time for yourself and relax and don't be so focused on productivity. So as a result, women are spending their days doing something that is more anxiety producing for them, hormonally speaking, than it is for men. So, which is what it is. I certainly think that women should stay in the workplace if that's what they want to be doing. But I think it's creating a little bit of a perfect storm where there is higher pressure on women to be perfect in all of the ways, and women are more sensitive to a very yang dominant workplace and like I said, just a lot of the factors that I've mentioned. I think women are really, really, really burned out. And one of the things that I think I'm seeing as fallen by the wayside is this piece of spending time with other women. Do I think that we should be like walking to wells and getting water or spending our days quilting together all day, every day? No, I do not. But I do think that the value of women spending time with women can't be underestimated because of what it does to balance out the hormones and also to refill the cup, to like provide this time that's yin time, to just be like still and relaxed and kind of present. And whether you're doing that alone or doing it in nature, which is great, there is something about doing it with other women also in the mix that is particularly restorative to women. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and I think it's a combination of both just how busy and burned out we are, and also I think there's a social media piece of it that's figuring in as well. What I'm seeing in the form of female friendship is for one thing just a lack of it. I'm getting a lot of clients who are coming in and saying, I don't have female friends. I'm having a really hard time finding people who want to actually get together and do things. And I, being a Gen Xer and having grown up pre-social media, when I was growing up and we got together with women, it definitely, like, A, it happened because we weren't as frantically busy then, and B, what it looked like was really different. It, like, okay, yes, sometimes we got all dolled up and went to the mall and walked around and swivel necked and did that sort of thing. But largely, we got together in our sweats and we ate pizza and we sat on each other's floors and listened to records and talked about life. And what I'm seeing in female friendship is that there's very little actually getting together happening. There's so much texting and sending of memes and that sort of thing, but my feeling about that, like, that is to friendship what Cheetos are to food. It, like, if you're dying, it's sort of going to sustain you, but it's certainly not going to be fulfilling, and it's not going to nourish you. And then there's a lot of planning to get together and then canceling and that not happening because I think people are exhausted and burned out. And when it does happen, it seems to be more kind of in the ilk of getting dressed up and going someplace cool and taking a lot of pictures and posting them on social media, which means that you're on, like you're on. It's not a yin space. It's not relaxed and receptive and restorative. It's still kind of having to be performative in some ways, and that's not what's really needed right now. And the other thing I'm seeing that is a little bit horrifying is the amount of that is revolving around drinking and kind of this mommy wine culture. I looked at the statistics a while back, and I didn't pull the statistics for this post, but and I don't remember exactly what they were. But the incidence of problem alcohol usage among women, specifically in their 30s and 40s, even pre-COVID, had gone up to such an alarming degree that there was talk about declaring it a public health emergency. Like, I think the 10 years, and like I said, this was prior to COVID, the 10 years it had gone up, just, I don't want to say a number because I don't remember what it was, but it was enough that there were alarm bells ringing within the public health community. And that has definitely gotten worse since COVID. There was ungodly amounts of stress and pressure, and things being very foreign and strange, and like I talked about in my last post, very stressful. And so it has definitely gotten worse. And so what my concern is that, and also it's being very culturally validated. 20 years ago, 10 years ago even, if you walked into a home goods store, you didn't see kitchen towels that referenced wine, bathroom art that referenced wine, a doormat that referenced wine. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wine. I'll have a glass of it here and there as well. But when it is being used to cope with an untenable personal and cultural circumstance and dynamic, like when what's really going on is that women are terribly burnt out and they can't relax, and they're so stressed that they're having a glass of wine or two or three or however many in order to even be able to relax, that's problematic. And especially in light of the fact that these are women who are in their child rearing years. And so there is a generation of children being raised by moms who just aren't in a good space and who really need to be given permission to relax and let down and receive and restore and just rest. And who I'm hoping I'm hoping for sort of a renaissance of female friendship that's lowbrow, that is about getting together in your sweats with your messy bun and just talking about stuff, talking about the real things of life and processing in ways that actually are restorative and that do fill your cup back up. Um, just checking my notes to see if there was anything else I wanted to say about this. I think that's kind of it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Oh, and I did want to also talk about kind of the significance of hustle culture and the fact that that is in the spirit of doing, my other concern is that in the spirit of giving our kids every opportunity, we are initiating them very specifically and with deliberation into hustle culture and busy culture. And hustle culture and busy culture it's eating us alive. So my other concern is, above and beyond mothers who may be drinking too much here and there, is the fact that in trying to do all the things, what we're role modeling to our kids is a wildly unbalanced way of existing in the world that is leading to, like, not only alcohol dependence, but also widespread autoimmune disorders, anxiety disorders, all kinds of problems with the nervous system. And my other concern is that in our wonderful intentions to give them every opportunity and to make sure that they have a chance to try all the things that they want to try, and like whatever the motivation is, that we are involving them in so many activities and so much school stuff, and that the kids are just so busy. I'm within my practice also, I'm seeing a lot of kids who are coming apart at the seams because they don't have downtime, and especially for kids, for their neurological and cognitive development, for their physical development, and especially for the development of their creativity, they need downtime. And it's like I did the whole post with regard to COVID and why they needed downtime to kind of process and catch up from the trauma of that, but also just developmentally. Kids need free time. Kids need time where there are no expectations on them, where they're just spacing out, or they're just futzing around with something artistically or whatever. Just some like quiet, unscheduled, unstructured time to rest and restore and to really take in, other than just when they're sleeping. And I'm concerned that they aren't getting enough of that, and what we're role modeling to them is that that's not of value, and that we're going to raise another generation who are as out of balance as this generation is right now. So I just want to, I guess this post is really about, I really want to advocate for what I'm going to call a radical feminist act of resting and relaxing and restoring and taking in. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say too. The absence of taking in what you really do need in the, when it's rest or super nourishing food or whatever it is, there is a tendency to kind of compulsively take in other ways. And so whether it's the alcohol or eating junk food or shopaholism or that sort of thing, if you are giving yourself what you really need, there isn't such a tendency to surreptitiously give yourself something that isn't what you actually need. And I think a lot of the compulsive behaviors that a lot of people are struggling with are grounded in just not giving yourself what you really need, which is just time to just be. So this is turning into a really long post, and that's what I have to say about it. But I do encourage you to kind of slow down, take some time, do nothing, have the audacious bravery to do nothing and rest and restore and relax. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you guys next time.